I got a call late last night.
Yeah.
From a person who had been in contact with Will Wade and said, do you think that NC State knows, do you think Boo specifically knows that Will has interest in the job? And I said, well, listen, I think the money people and the collective people around NC State have made it known that Will is their preference.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the list I put out yesterday did not include Wade because that's Boo's list.
Yep.
Okay. So I think the top two names on that list either politely declined or said, hey, I don't think the timing is right.
Okay.
So that's Mike White and Ryan Odom. Okay. Now that gets you down to Mike Bray still being out there potentially. It also gets you down to what I've been told, though, is Justin Gainey or Will Wade.
Mm-hmm.
Justin Gainey, former NC State assistant, is now at Tennessee. And the flight tracker awareness was sent to me about Boo's trip to Tennessee. And then also the trip to Louisiana to meet with Will Wade. So luckily enough, Will Wade, or coincidentally enough, Will Wade and Justin Gainey have the same agent. So that can be a good thing for NC State and Boo Corcoran, believe it or not. Now, the question is Will Wade in a position where he's in a hurry or he's desperate? And I would say to you, he's not. And then now this is where the financial commitment comes back into play.
Okay.
It can't just be, oh, we want Will Wade. Well, Will Wade's going to look at it, or just that Will Wade has interest or that would take the job.
Mm-hmm.
Being willing to leave McNeese to take the NC State job is not really the math you're working on here. The question is, can you secure Will Wade services over a different potential opening? Let's say Texas, who continues to keep winning, which is a good thing, obviously, for NC State. Let's say what happens if, the morality police have told me that Indiana will not hire Chris Beard for his legal issues that he had at Texas.
I was talking to somebody yesterday about that.
And people have been adamant about that to me, and I've dismissed it for the last couple of weeks because I've just been kind of like...
Well, actually, hold on a second because it's live. Hey, Rob. We're Rob Dauster from Field of 68. Does NC State have a coach yet? I mean, because I know you're also plugged in. We're sitting here talking about these things. Here. This is just live. Let's just do this. Rob
That's
is
the
here.
Hottest mic ever.
It's not big. Yeah, careful with that hot mic. But yeah, Rob Dauster's here. This is just classic, on the fly.
Podcasting.
This
is
is
2025,
live
man.
podcasting
This is how it goes.
right now. That's how we do. All right, Joe was giving his update.
I have the
NC
same
State.
roadcaster, by the way.
Roadcaster's
Yeah,
money.
these things
dude.
are awesome.
They're amazing.
They're awesome.
They're amazing. All right, what are you hearing?
Did you see the? I don't know if I want to say that yet. Here's my take on what NC State should do. They should go to a local bank.
Yeah.
They should buy a Brinks truck, right?
Yeah.
They should fill it up with as much money as they can. They should drive it down to Lake Charles, Louisiana, and just back it right up onto Will Wade's front lawn. That's what I would do.
They did that on a plane,
That's where
right?
the financial portion of this comes into
Yeah.
play. And I think Will is not desperate. That's what I was just saying, that there's a difference between Will being interested in the job and Will being desperate. And Will's not going to take a job where the financial commitment is not there. And I'm not talking about his salary or his coaching staff. I'm talking about the payroll for the basketball
Because
team
that's what matters
next year.
now.
Yeah.
It is.
We talk about 5 years ago, what everyone said was, can he recruit? Like, can he recruit a certain area? Can he recruit a certain way? Can he recruit a type of player that's going to go there? And the only way you recruit now is money. It's how big is the paycheck going to be?
Yeah.
Am I actually going to get the paychecks that I agree to get, right? That you sign. So that's the biggest thing. So they don't have the financial resources, and he has no incentive to jump right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's not desperate. Maybe you can explain this better. You understand the national perspective better. People have tried to explain to me that Indiana is on their high horse and does not want to hire Chris Beard. Is that essentially correct? A summation anyway?
I feel like if they were going to hire Chris Beard, there'd be a lot more smoke around that right now.
Sure.
And the everything you hear is I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to go that way. And I think I don't blame him either. There's stuff there. There's stuff there that I get. But if I'm Indiana, I would have a difficult time hiring Chris Beard, knowing
everything that's all the baggage that comes with it. Right.
Do you think Clemson's legit? Do you think Brad Brownell is a legit candidate at Indiana?
I think that they've gone far enough down the list now where he is.
Okay.
Right. And I don't know if I love Brad Brownell at Indiana, because I feel like my take on it is he has spent the last 10 years recruiting the same kind of player to Clemson.
Yeah.
Right? And it's not like Chase, and that's nothing against Chase Hunter or Ian Shefflin. They're really good basketball players. But now he's got 5th and 6th year guys, and the ACC is a little bit down. And I feel like that's why he's thriving the way that he's been thriving these last couple of seasons. So I don't know. Indiana feels like you need someone that's going to be willing to go out there and do the stuff Pat Kelsey does at Louisville.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know if that – Brad Brunell's a basketball coach. I think he's just happy being at a school where it's a football school. He could just go out there and coach hoops, right?
Yep.
Again, if I'm Indiana, I don't know why they wouldn't go after Will Wade. Like, I understand that there's some kind of legal stuff going on there, but, like, that dude's going to win.
If we could parse the bad person and bad acts, Chris Beard has legitimate bad person acts, whereas Will Wade has fake NCAA.
It's not even illegal anymore. It's not even illegal.
But
you're going to recruit him because he's going to make strong ass offers. That's what you want him now.
Right, and that's what it all comes back to. NC State had to make a strong ass offer to Will Wade beyond just what he's going to get paid, but everything that goes along with it. And we can kind of wrap the conversation on Will Wade about this. Anybody who's getting pearl clutchy about Will Wade. We talked about shit, man. You mentioned this the other day. Like, if you told Boo Corrigan, back in 2017, 2019,
I think that was the only stumbling block, because it's not just Boo Corrigan. You're talking about the chancellor, and the AD, and that whole school. Like, they spent a significant amount of money on that NCAA case.
Yeah.
So if you were involved in that and worked through that, it would give you pause, right? Now,
Not anymore.
The world has changed. I get that, but I'm just saying it would give you pause if you were Randy Woodson and Boo Corrigan. And I respect the fact that a man's got to live by a code. They have their own ideas. But I do think the two people that they thought would be their ideas, Mike White and Ryan Odom, have let them know that they're not going to be the coach at NC State.
Yeah. And I think Ryan Odom would be a great hire for NC State. What Mike White is doing at Georgia shouldn't be overlooked, right?
No.
Like, Georgia's good.
Yeah.
Georgia's going to be in the NCAA tournament as a single-digit seed. Georgia is, right? So I don't think he would be
like a
bad hire
record. Yeah.
My take is always going to be this: like, do you want to win in basketball? Do you want to be good?
Yeah.
Because if you want to be good, there's going to be sometimes you got to look over things. There's only how many guys out there are just perfect human beings that also happen to be great basketball coaches that are going to be good for your Q rating and that aren't going to piss anybody off?
Do you think St. John's cares about any of the Rick Pitino stuff right now?
I think St. John's loves it.
Right.
They're leaning into
as
it.
They should.
And look at what's happened. I was at the Garden 3 weeks ago for the UConn game, and it was as an electric of an atmosphere as I've seen in an NBA arena with 19,000 people. You know how hard that is to do?
Dude,
in an arena that big.
Hey, look, man. Maybe it was the Fanta vibes. I don't know, because he was doing PA for that. What was it? It was St. John's versus Creighton. I just went on a random because I was done with the ACC tournament when I was in Brooklyn. I'm like, I want to finally go to a Big East event at that building to see what it's like. It's St. John's versus Creighton. Not exactly like a blockbuster matchup. Packed.
Yes.
Old retired fireman who's been watching St. John's for 40 freaking years. He knows
the thing about the Big East tournament,
great.
it's different than all the other conference tournaments because everyone has their tradition when they go there, right?
Yeah.
Like, you have your hotel that you stay at, you have the bar that you go to before every single game, you have the restaurant that you go to either before the game or after the game if it's something in the afternoon. Like, everybody from every fan base has their traditions, and it kind of stalled out a little bit when the Big East broke up.
Yeah.
But now that Xavier is fully part of this and Creighton's fully part of it, like, it's picked up again. It's the Garden. There's just something about the Garden.
No, there's something about it. All right, dude.
Yeah.
Good catching up. This is live, baby. I love it.
Thanks, Rob.
Field of 68.
Appreciate it.
Live podcasting with Rob Dauster, Field of 68. Figured we'd bring in a real-time national perspective on that kind of stuff and kind of banter here a little bit with Gilia. All right. So let's put a bow on the NC State coaching search stuff. If we can sum it up, Joe, where are we at?
They're down to two choices, and Will Wade's one of them, and Justin Gainey is the other. And I think the money and the collective are squarely behind Will Wade. I would caution some people on social media who are questioning Justin Gainey's bona fides, though, because Justin was a point guard at NC State, was a hell of a competitor as a player.
Yeah.
Worked with Herb Sendek out west, worked with Sean Miller out west, worked with Shaka Smart at Marquette, and really has taken a kind of top lieutenant consigliere role with Rick Barnes now down at Tennessee. And I just glossed over his App State stop where he found guys at App State.
Yeah.
It's not easy what Justin's been able to do in help finding players. Dalton Connect at Northern Colorado. Okay. Like, Justin's really, really good. And I think he deserves a chance. And I know Levi Watkins was on Kevin Keats' staff. I know Levi would work with Justin.
Yeah.
Here at NC State. I have the utmost confidence, if it's Justin, that Justin and Levi could put together a really good team and do an excellent job in coaching them. So I'm slightly disappointed to see some of the reaction, and I get it.
I know why.
It's a portion of the fan base that is just fever pitch for Will Wade, but you shouldn't dismiss Justin's bona fides at all.
Okay.
I think he would be Tennessee is ready to turn their program over to Justin. So I think State's in a win-win position. I do think there's going to be some patience involved if Will is the choice, though, because Will is not someone who panics. Will's not someone who's desperate. Now, he knows he doesn't want to be at McNeese next year, but he's also someone who's going to make sure he makes the best choice for him.
Yeah.
And that might well end up being NC State.
It could be.
It could be. But I promise you, it's not going to be like this instantaneous, like, snap your fingers and it's done.
Now, one other thing I wanted to say before we move on to Duke, Cooper Flagg, and North Carolina. When it comes to coaching searches, I've never covered a coaching search. You know, in my role in doing what I've done for the longest time has always been to collect as much information that's out there and condense it into something that people can understand.
Sure.
I'm not on the ground doing calls and hitting up agents and things like that like you are. But the important thing that I've always understood about coaching searches is that they change pretty quick.
They do.
They change pretty quick. And I could be poking around the building today and talking to all the folks and seeing what they're saying, or, and hearing what they're saying, and then it completely changed. And that happened with you overnight.
You were driving me home,
and you were
and the phone call,
and the phone. Somebody from NC State, or an NC State guy, called you, and they were like catching up on all of this stuff. And this brings us back to Brad Crawford at 24/7. Remember, yesterday when we last left you, Brad Crawford was saying, "There's no way." Not at NC State. He's waiting for the job. At 2:02 today, Brad Crawford tweets out, that NC State coaching search has gone from Will Wade as the top priority to Will Wade is waiting for the job to come open, to the pack going all in on Wade. The fans clearly want Wade as their next coach, as do the boosters. Searches are fluid. Things can change swiftly. That's why.
That's a good way to put it.
It's a good way to put it.
I'll say this for Boo, too. This will not be an 06 or an 11 situation, because I know Justin will take the job.
Yeah.
So and Bray would have taken the job too, by the way. So I think he put himself in a situation where he had a couple guys in mind.
Yeah.
I think he went to those guys, got their answer, and is now ready to make his final choice here, which is smart.
So one quick thing too, about Mike White. We were talking about that with Rob. We were talking about Ryan Odom as well. Usually the way that works is, obviously Mike White and Boo have a relationship.
Yes.
So that's a real easy one to kind of figure out.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That is not back channels. This is kind of like, like, just let you know, right? And
that's also a conversation you have. You got to remember, Mike White was at Florida when Boo got this job.
Yes.
Like, that's a conversation you had. They probably had it in 22, if we're being honest right now.
I can see that.
Too.
Like, what if? It's like what if scenarios. So
yeah.
you go in with an informed perspective. And then Ryan Odom always kind of spoke to my back channel conversation. Like, hey, if this job were open, or if this was a thing, would you?
All these guys talk.
They all freaking talk.
All these guys talk now.
They all talk.
They don't have that many. In this case, you're talking about two guys with the same agent, but these guys talk, and they know, like, potentially what's coming open as well. And that's why I would just caution with Will, it's probably not a today decision. You're probably looking at somebody who is going to weigh his options. Now, if you're NC State, can you overwhelm him with a financial offer? NC State has never done that in its history. I've covered coaching searches going back to Herb Sendex, and NC State every time talks about doing that, but has never done that.
I also have one last question about State. I keep saying I have a last question about State. You know what I've not heard in any of the conversation regarding how NC State's going to go forward with a new coach, general manager, any of that stuff?
Well,
what does that look like? I mean, we just saw Carolina play, and they've been going through it. We've talked about it. Are they going to get a GM? They should have had a GM from the jump. with Duke, it was not even a question. They had a GM from the start. So if we know what the deal is, I'm not hearing anything about a general manager at NC State.
That gets back to your infrastructure and commitment. We'll see. I would assume if Will were to do that, I would assume Will would have a general manager.
Yeah, I would assume so too.
And the budget would be what it is. I hope that Justin can get a similar type of budget, but Tennessee's done a really good job. Now the SEC is different. The SEC, every school in the SEC was at least $3 million. Okay, but what Tennessee has done, Tennessee lost Jonas Adu to Arkansas for $1.2 million. They haven't been at the top of that pyramid, but they've made good choices, and Justin's been a part of that. So, different strokes for different folks, but we'll see what this infrastructure looks like once the hire is made. That's a big part of this, right? And you gotta figure there's no way Will's signing on the dotted line without assurances of what the financial situation will be.